Today's video, we're gonna talk about how to set starting bids on Google Ads to make money like the pros or a pro. At least I can tell you at our firm, when we guarantee clients results, nobody else is able to do that. What we're able to do with the bidding that's gonna make that possible in as short a period of time as possible and for us to make the most possible with our starting bids. So this is a formula, is very repeatable, very doable by yourself as well, even though you're not myself or our agency who does it hundreds of times. So for that matter, is a shortcut version to it. There's a bit more nuance to this, but I'll try to give some scenarios here that will make it clear cut for you to be able to do for yourself here. And then with that, some other side tips that are gonna make sure when you're starting out with your Google campaigns that you get them off the ground quickly, and then also you aren't getting clipped on the upside of what that campaign can deliver for you as well. I'll go over those bonus advanced tips, if you will, on this video as well. So, and then if you stay at the end of the video, I'll have some actual case study type information as well, so stay tuned for that. With that said, getting into what I wanted to mention here, before I do that, I do want to make sure that you know who I am in case you're stumbling upon this video. I am Corey. I'm an owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability, basically in excess of the management fees that we charge. We are the only agency out there who offers any kind of similar guarantees, but should tell you something about the quality of the information on this particular video. So with that said, getting into it. Now, the process that we have for setting starting bids, given that I do get this question a lot, can you rely, or how much can you rely on the Google Keyword Planner to tell you what your starting bid needs to be, okay? And the answer to that is you can't rely on it very much. It's a general guideline, but it would say 75% of markets you can rely on it, but 25% of the time it's way off. To the point where, like, we had just had a campaign that we launched in the kitchen remodeling space in a larger city. And whereas Google is gonna say you're gonna pay 25 bucks starting out, which is the high end estimate, which is where, by the way, in terms of starting cost per click, where you're always gonna be, it's the high end, not the low end. The reality is to get the number of impressions up, using exact match with manual bidding, which gets you the exact, phrases that you want. Those same keywords that Google Keyword Planner said that it was going to cost 28 bucks a click, we're paying 100 bucks a click just to break through and get our ads shown at the beginning. So Google, we can start acquiring some data and for the algorithm to see how good our ads are. So we don't have to pay 100 bucks a click, and won't, but that's how high we had to get the cost per click in terms of the keyword bids just to be able to get the campaign going. And that happens in a lot of competitive markets now. So you can use Google Keyword Planner as a guide to decide where that starting cost per click should be on the keyword level. Of course, if you're doing manual bidding, all the other levels like time of the day, day of the week, pretty much just leave those as is. Because mobile traffic works just as good as desktop traffic anymore. And for that matter, if anything, maybe you put the weekends as lower if you're doing a service business, but that's pretty much it. For the most part, I will more so nowadays start all our keyword bids at a really low amount, maybe like $1. Launch the campaign, then I'm gonna, right after I launch the campaign, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the keyword menu, select all keywords, click edit, and then change bids, keyword bids. And then I'm going to select the option that says raise keyword bids to first page estimate. And what that'll do is it'll automatically raise my keyword bids to the amount per keyword that we need to be shown on the first page at least. Now that doesn't mean top of the page, that just means on the first page at least, so we can get at least some impressions from that keyword and get us going, if you will. Otherwise, what happens is a lot of your keywords are gonna show up in the keyword status column as bid too low, won't show up on the first page. So that is gonna be your first step in deciding what the starting cost per click should be. If you're not gonna manually keyword by keyword look at Google Keyword Planner, put that in on your keyword, on each keyword's level, which in my opinion is mostly a waste of time now. I'm just gonna bid to whatever they say it takes for the keyword to show up on the first page. Given that, even if you do check the Google Keyword Planner, take the high-end estimate, put it on the keyword itself. You launch that campaign with that keyword will often still say, bid too low, sorry you have to bid higher. So you go through all that work of looking at the keyword bids on the keyword planner, and it doesn't even pay off at the end of the day in terms of, knowing in advance what you're gonna have to pay per click just to get shown it all on the first page of Google. So that's step one in this process. Then step two is you launch the campaign, of course, and like I mentioned, you're gonna right away click to raise the minimum CPC on all the keywords that are not showing on the first page. Then, of course, beyond that, you're gonna check back in 3 days to repeat step two, as well, with and as much as necessary. So, in other words, what happens is Google, even though they say your keyword, red shoes, needs to have a cost per click bid of $3 to get shown on the first page. In order for the bid too low, won't show on the first page warning on the status column shows up for that keyword to make it go away. Well, you'll find 3 days from now, they're saying, well, now they're saying it needs to be $3.21. And the reality is the reason why they're doing that is one of two reasons. One of which is the market's changed in those 3 days already, which they're always updating everything with Google Ads every day, to where they say, okay, so the competition has raised their bids for red shoes, so you now have to raise your bids to show it on the first page. It's either that or you've gotten some impressions and clicks, or at least impressions on that keyword. Google sees that you're not getting the standard click-through rate from that keyword that other people bidding on that keyword are also getting. So they're gonna say, I don't know about this guy. We're gonna make sure that he has to pay more per click if he just wants to continue to get some action on this keyword. So in that case, that's also where they're gonna say, if you wanna keep going on this keyword, you now have to bid $3.21. So, and then this will continue. It'll continue for months, to where a keyword that was eligible to show up on the first page today is no longer eligible to show up on the first page tomorrow. And so what you'll have to do is keep going through the process. Repeat step two in 7 more days. So you're gonna go into your keywords menu, select all keywords, say raise all keyword bids to top first page bid, right? All the keywords that were showing the warning, bid too low to show up on the first page, those keywords don't have that warning anymore. Of course, the 3 days after launch of the campaign, you did that. 7 more days after you launch the campaign, you're gonna do that same exact process again, because a few more keywords are gonna say your bid's too low to show up on the first page, and then you correct that. I mean, you could avoid the extra work by just setting the cost per click bid on all your keywords super high, to where if Google Keyword Planner is saying you could, the average high end cost per click bid for most of the keywords in your space is $30, you could set your keyword bids to 120 and then skip all this work. But if you want to pay a reasonable or as low a bid as possible to show on the first page, then you're going to want to go it this way, where you're just upping the bid to the minimum threshold in order for that warning, that low, not showing up on first page warning doesn't show up, if you will. And also given that, it'll only be select keywords where that warning shows up. So why bid super high for all your keywords when really all you needed was a little boost on a few individual keywords? And for that matter, it'll happen to you more often if you have more keywords, obviously. On our accounts, we are a heavy user of single keyword ad group campaigns, where we have different ads and different landing pages for each keyword, because that maxes out click-through rates and conversion rates for our clients. But to make that strategy really, really work the best, you need to have a few hundred keywords. So you have unique laser targeted ad copy for every variant of every search someone can make, practically speaking. And same thing with the landing page, headline, and content. For that matter, if you have 500 keywords in your campaign, every few days you're absolutely going to see some keywords where the bid it's saying the bid's not high enough to be on the first page. Oh, and just as a small side, when you go ahead and you select all keywords and say increase the bids on all keywords that are not on the first page to the first page bid, there's an option there secondarily to that says put a max CPC bid limit. So you could say, hey, I want to show up on the first page for all my keywords. So any keywords that are currently not bid high enough to be on the first page, do that unless a keyword requires more than 20 bucks a click to be on the first page, and in that case, I don't want to bid higher for this particular keyword. Or should I say, not to stand completely clear on that and correct on that, I will not bid more than 20 bucks. So I'll up my bid from $5 to 20, but if I up my keyword bid to 20 and it still says I need to bid more to show up on the first page, that's 20 is just going to be the highest we are going to allow for that keyword, and that's it. I don't care if it doesn't show up on the first page. Which, by the way, even if it says it doesn't show up on the first page, you could still get clicks, weirdly enough. Your clicks are likely, though, to come from parties that are less competitive and less desired by your competition. So maybe you'll get clicks on the weekends or overnights, 2 a.m., something like that. But you won't get the full showing from that keyword as a result, which you typically never get the full showing, but you'll get more showing the higher their bid is that you have, which is why you always bid higher. And you always wouldn't necessarily just bid to whatever Google says it takes to get to the first page, because once you're on the first page, you could bid higher to be at the top of the page. You can bid higher to have a bigger ad, bid higher to get a higher impression share or higher percentage of the time that the ad actually shows. So anyway, just a small side or caveat to that, everything I said here so far. Now, once you did the 7-day, raise the bids to the first page, you're going to repeat step 2 again here, raising the keyword bids so that all the keywords with bid is too low to show up on the first page. You're going to do that same process at day 14, day 30, day 60, day 90, day 180. So you just set a reminder on your calendar to do this. And ultimately, like I said, you could just bid super high on everything and then pay more per click. And if you have a big bank account and you just don't have the time, you could do that. Otherwise, if you want to go as conservative as possible, and given that you only have so much money to spend on ads, given that if you raise the cost per click sky high, you would just have all your campaigns limited by budget, which means they're only going to run part of the day. Your better bet, for efficiency's sake, is to raise all the keywords so that they show up on the first page, and ultimately just that in itself, if you will. And that's it. And then for that matter, once though you get 30 to 100 conversions going, you're going to switch your campaigns to just smart bidding, because you're going to get better results with smart bidding, maximize conversion value bidding strategy, over manual bidding, because Google's machine learning is much more advanced than any kind of manual adjustment you can make to your campaigns nowadays. I know, because I used to love manual bidding until I couldn't beat the results with smart bidding anymore, and we now exclusively use smart bidding on all our client campaigns to guarantee our clients' results as a result of that. So really what you're doing at the beginning is just raising the bids, the minimum amount to get them shown on the first page, and then to get some initial conversion data. And then once you have some initial conversion data, because your keyword's got some click traction, then you're going to let the algorithm optimize for conversions at that point. So you're optimizing for clicks at the beginning, then you're optimizing for conversions after that. And a lot of guys wonder why, like, Corey, why don't you just select the bidding strategy, maximize clicks instead of manual bids? And I made a video just about this a couple of videos back. The answer to that is with maximize clicks, you get shown for a lot of weird stuff that's unrelated to your keywords. It's almost like going from exact to phrase or phrase to broad match keywords in and itself. So you want to stick with manual bidding. You just want to raise your bids on manual bidding, whatever it takes to get your keywords shown. Because if your keywords don't show, your ads don't show for your keywords, in other words, you're not going to get any conversions, and you need the conversions for the algorithm to optimize for conversions. So you're just using manual bidding to get your ads going well, which it's great for getting ads going, because with smart bidding, if you go to that right away, because you have no conversion data, the campaigns you just won't get any impressions either. So like if your budget was $100 a day and you're using manual bidding and you go through this process and you're only spending $10 a day, I would take a detour and say, instead of doing and bidding the minimum amount to have your keyword show on the first page, I would double my keyword bids and then wait a few days and see if my impressions and clicks went up enough to spend my starting budget. And if they didn't, I would double my keyword bids again. And then I would double my keywords bids again, or just doubling them every 3 or so days until my budget is actually being spent. and that'll force the system to actually have them show your ads, because at a certain point you bid so high, they're going to say, I don't care how much we like these other guys that have been advertising with us for years already, we're going to start showing this new guy's ads because he's willing to pay $200 a click or whatever it takes, and then you'll get it. Not to say that's profitable or sustainable, but it will force the system to start showing your ads. And in a competitive market, that's way more prevalent in terms of what it takes to get your ad shown than people think. And which is why they use maximize clicks to get their clicks going, which in that case though, they do that, they start showing up for a bunch of weird stuff, and then they don't get any conversions, and they complain about that. When really they should have just bid higher with the manual bidding strategy and do exact match terms, so that yes, you're paying a lot more than what you may want to per click, but at least the clicks you're getting are solid. And when the algorithm has to judge your ads, your website, your landing page, to decide to give you a lower cost per click, give you more clicks, give you a higher quality prospect to get in front of, you want to have it done on the actual prospects that you ultimately want at the end of the day, not just some oddball prospects which don't frankly want what you have, and then they see that your website has a high bounce because you're getting the wrong people to the site, and then you defeated the whole purpose of what you're trying to do at the beginning, which is to just pay for some data for the algorithm to evaluate your campaign in terms of its merit, click-through rate, conversion rate, so that you could get the proper showing that the guys that have been advertising for years making millions are already getting, because they already went through that process. Google sees that they have the better ad, better landing page, better website than all the people advertising for your same keywords, and they're going to give them all the love. The cheaper cost per click, more clicks, and ultimately higher quality prospects, given that they can actually divvy out the people that they know's the home run prospects to the people they want to encourage to stick around, which is the people with the best ads and best landing pages and best websites. They literally sub-segment the keyword traffic at a keyword level and identify if a person's likely to buy or not, and the person who's likely to buy, they will have their most favorite guy ad show, and the new advertiser, which they don't think is going to stay around very long, they'll show that ad when the least likely to buy prospect comes through instead, which is why when you start out, your cost per click is sky high, but also your conversion rates are in the complete toilet at the beginning, because they're giving you the worst quality traffic when you start out. And it's hard for us to even communicate at our agency this with clients, like, hey, you have to run your ads for a while just to get the leads. When they're thinking, well, if the ad shows up on Google, it should generate leads right away. No, it won't, because you're getting like the dog shit most traffic at the beginning. Like the worst of the worst of the worst converting traffic. And you got the best setup in the world, you're still gonna get no conversions at the beginning. They'll give you a tiny sliver of the good quality traffic just because they need to do that to evaluate you properly. They'll give you 90% bad traffic. And then if you get a conversion, they're like, maybe this guy's okay. We'll give him a tiny bit more. And they'll just keep doing that until you've displaced everybody else in the market. But in terms of the keyword searches that you want to show up for, but that can take 6, 12, 18 months to fully happen. 24 months for that to fully happen, depending on the level of competition in your market. Okay, so with that said, after you got the minimum conversions, 30 to 100 is ideal, but we switched over to smart bidding after 5 to 10 conversions before. If it takes a long time to get conversions, I recommend switching sooner, 5, 10 even. If you are spending your full budget already and you aren't switched over to smart bidding yet, what I would encourage you to do is just lower your cost per click a little at a time, so you get more clicks for your budget. So where at the beginning, you're raising your cost per click until you get shown good and well. Once you actually spend, let's say your 100 a day that you need to spend, because that is your starting budget that you're willing to invest up front to get some data, to what you can afford to lose up front to build a multi-million-dollar a year ad account for yourself. Once you get there and your campaigns are saying limited by budget, therefore you could run your ads all day long. They're getting shut off halfway through the day, which is essentially what that is. You start lowering your keyword bids across the board 10% at a time. You lower them 10%. Are we still spending 100 a day, which is our budget? Yeah, okay, let's lower them a 10% more. And then you walk your cost per click back down to a normal amount, whereas in the beginning you spike it to get the system going, and then you lower it down. And eventually you switch over to smart bidding, right? But because ultimately, assuming you have the right ads and landing pages that can beat your competition theoretically in terms of click-through rates and conversion rates, they'll let you get by with paying less per click and getting the same showing, if you will, because that's just how it works. They're willing to pay they charge you less per click for the same level of showing when you have metrics that are good on the front end, click-through rate, conversion rate. And they see it, and because they benchmark you against all your competition. And frankly, there's 20 guys in some markets cycling in and out of the top 4 ad spots on Google. And so they have a lot of discretion to decide whether your ad shows or not. And for people that actually matter, that aren't just looking for information, that are tire kickers, whatever. With that said, another thing to kind of mention here, you are also, while you're still in manual bidding, if you, let's say, find out that on your $100 a day budget, you need to have at least 18 grand in sales a month from that 3 grand in ad budget, which is a 6-to-1 ratio of sales to ad spend, to be profitable after all your company expenses, salaries, so on and so forth at a bare minimum level. You realize that your campaigns are generating a 3-to-1 ratio after 90 days. What do you do in that situation? Well, it's easy at that point in time. All you got to do is select all keywords, reduce your cost per your bid 50% on all keywords, which you can easily do when you are going to modify bids, because you can say reduce bids on all keywords by 50% on all selected keywords, which you can select all the keywords really easily. And then moving forward, you'll get your 6-to-1. It's really that simple. When you actually get to a break even in terms of you're making enough sales to cover all your expenses, including your ad spend, you should be jumping up and down for joy, baby, because at that point, it's only going to get more profitable. So whereas people get stuck on, oh, my ads aren't working, I should shut them off. Well, the reality is what you're really looking for at the beginning is to see your ads are just simply improving. The first week, the second week is better than the first week, the first month's better than the first week, and so forth. And really, week to week, anything can happen. It's really, you're looking for month 1 to be worse than month 2, month 2 being worse than month 3 on a monthly time scale, or even in some occasions on a quarterly time scale. Because statistically, if you chart it out, eventually your campaigns are going to be profitable if you just wait a little bit longer. And it'll just keep going, because once it is profitable, it'll get more and more profitable. And everything you spend up front to get the data that you need for the system to actually realize you invested a lot to have a better ad, better landing pages than the competition, you'll make it all back times 100 anyway. And that's how you have to think about this in order to actually be the one of the 1 in 10 people who actually get it to work. The average guy comes in and says, oh, I tried it, it didn't work. No, they didn't give it nowhere near enough time. So even with the best ad, best landing page in the world, I personally make it for you, it's still not going to work instantly in a competitive market, because they're going to give you the crappier traffic and charge you way more per click than the leading guy is getting. And that's how we can afford to be pegged at the top. So you could use the keyword bids to dial in a certain ROI, right? And then with that, you could scale then as the final step in the process using bid adjustments. I just made a video about how to do bid adjustments. And essentially what you're gonna do is on each level or dimension of your account, time of the day of the week, user gender, age, household income, parental status, device level, and hundreds of / thousands of other levels the user can be blocked or optimized on. You're going to do what is called a bid adjustment, which means you're going to go either tell Google you want to go up in bid or lower than in bid for certain people that have certain traits. So if they have high income, you're going to, for instance, do a plus 50% bid adjustment, will allow you to pay 50% more for a higher income person, which will give you a more statistical likelihood to show up for the high income person that comes through Google searching for your keywords than not. And with that said, you use something called a bid adjustment formula to mathematically calculate, okay, what should the bid be for a mobile versus a desktop user, or somebody who comes in on the weekend or weekday or day or night. And what this does is it reallocates budget from what's working less than average on your campaigns to what's producing more than average. So if you're already profitable, it'll scale the campaign, because you'll end up very well understanding how to outbid everybody for the people that are just really good prospects, and vice versa, and just taking that from what's already just not really profitable for you at the end of the day. And so you should watch my last video I made in reference to the bid adjustment formula that you're going to use to mathematically calculate that bid adjustment. But that's how you're going to scale once that initial starting budget you have is profitable. And so to go full circle on this or whatever, you're going to, before you advertise, you're going to set up your tracking. You're going to track if you're generating leads, the leads, and then whether the leads turn into a sale, or if it's e-commerce, sales, including any sales that occur through the phone. You're gonna have to get that in your account as well. That's done through offline conversion tracking. I got videos about that. Then you're gonna mathematically calculate what the ROI you need is, or the cost per lead you need is if you're generating leads. You need a $30 lead cost to be profitable after all expenses, or certain ROAS or ROI to be profitable after all expenses. Then you're gonna launch your campaign. You're gonna go through this whole process. You're gonna find out after about 90 days how profitable you are. If you're not profitable, you lower the keyword bids or just switch to smart bidding, which is the route that I would recommend going because it works the best. You're gonna set your smart bidding up to get you a cost per lead or cost per sale that's at least 15% better than what the campaign already generates, because that'll push it to be more efficient. When you get that level of cost per lead or ROAS from the campaign after turning on the smart bidding like that, and then setting the target CPA or target ROAS slightly higher or slightly lower than you got, you're gonna make another similar adjustment, which generally speaking, you wanna do like around 15% adjustment at a time. Eventually, you'll walk the ROI or cost per lead up to the level it needs to be profitable. And then once you've done that, then you're just gonna sit around, wait for the Google to tell you that the campaign is limited by budget. You're gonna raise the campaign to the minimum amount, or the amount that Google says that they recommend you raise it to, because it'll say you're spending 30 a day, you could spend 100 a day, raise it to 100. It'll still get you the conversions at the same cost per conversion you already achieved, which is profitable to you, and you're just now gonna make 3 times as much moving forward. And then after a while, it'll say limited by budget again, and you're gonna raise the campaign's budget to the amount that it says that you should raise it to, given that you're only running your ads part of the day when it's showing limited by budget, and then that's how you're gonna walk your sales up. So if you're doing manual bidding, if you walk your sales up through bid adjustments. If you're doing smart bidding, which I recommend you do, then the campaign is optimized for you automatically, which essentially Google's optimizing your ads on all these different levels anyway, time of the day, day of the week. It's just done by their algorithm itself. And they look at things like whether a person's been to a certain website before or not, in determination if you should be paying more per click for that person. And then they do that for you. And then once they realize where they can get you more sales, they say limited by budget on your campaign. And that's where your opportunity to make more is, once you up the budget to the recommended amount. When you go up the recommended amount, you can almost guarantee, for the most part, you're gonna get the same ROI you got at least, but you'll just have more sales because you're gonna have more clicks coming through. Of course, there's other ways to scale. One of my favorite ways is to take all the search terms out of your search terms report, which tells you what people have typed in before converting. You grab those terms, you set up unique laser targeted ad to target those terms. That'll double, triple your click-through rate on those terms, and you get more sales, and that opens up more opportunity for your account in and itself. Or you focus on your retargeting and you do that better, so that all the people coming to your site, you get the people back to your site to convert at a higher rate, whether they're turned into a lead and you're gonna increase the closing rate because you have retargeting going, or like if it's an e-commerce business, most people don't buy on the first visit to the site. You'll get a lot more people coming back and buying. I'm not gonna go through all the methods to scale on this particular video, but it isn't just about optimizing the bids that get you more sales. That's an important thing. I mean, frankly, if you have the tracking set up right, you will constantly make more just with the algorithm that Google has with smart bidding, figuring out where to get you more customers, looking at the data about who buys and who doesn't buy, and then understanding where to spend more. Let you spend more per click to outbid other people in places where people are more likely to buy from you than the average Joe, which that's what smart bidding does. And so your cost per click goes up, but your ROI stays as good or even better than it was, because the system's designed to charge you more per click where they see an opportunity exists to get somebody that's a highly likely prospect to buy. Well, it's like, of course you would pay 4 times as much for a click for somebody that's 10 times as likely to convert. That's what smart bidding does at its core. If you like the information I'm presenting you here, by the way, which you should, because I spend 40 hours a week just doing ad strategy at our firm to find out what works, and I share on the weekends what works here. The information is not going to get better than that, what I'm presenting to you here, because of that reason. And most of the creators, so to say, on YouTube are just that. They're creators, they're not advertising specialists. They talk about ads, they're not actually running ads. So if you want to really know how to make money with ads, you should subscribe to this channel. You should also check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has fantastic information on it, nevertheless, or in addition, where I lay out strategies we're using to guarantee results for clients at our firm. So if you like the channel, you should check that blog out as well. If If you have any questions about anything I've covered here so far, or any marketing or advertising related question, you can always ask me in the comment section as well. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. But with that said, going back to kind of what I was talking about here, I mentioned that there was going to be some pro tips here in what I said, and a bit of case study information about different clients that we work with and how this stuff has kind of worked out. So tip number one is start out with tracking all your conversions before starting your ads, including offline sales tracking. So I touched on this in this video already, but I cannot stress enough, 90% of your results on Google Ads is going to be predicated on how much tracking data you've accumulated in the account. Brand new account with new campaigns, it's going to be really hard to make money right away in a competitive market. If you're in a non-competitive market with high demand, you can make money right away, but most of you guys aren't in that situation. So, and it's really tempting for people. They heard about Google Ads, they're excited about it, they've heard other people made money with it in the past. They go right away in setting up a campaign. They don't worry about the tracking, and the campaign fails. And if your campaign fails, or it's not getting you the ROI that you want, you got a few calls, you don't have anything to work from. How do you know what to eliminate out of the stream of traffic you got moving forward when you don't even know which part of the traffic got you the calls? You can't. So your best bet is to set the tracking up from the get-go, because you're never going to make money long-term, real money anyway, unless you have the tracking set up right. Even though it's tempting to just skip it, just trust me, do not skip it. Set it up right from the beginning, and don't hire just any random guy to do it, because it's actually kind of tricky. You got to have a lot of experience doing it to know all the little quirks to it as well. And then with that, don't just track leads, track a sale. I don't care what business you have. I don't care if you have a brick and mortar business, you could track sales with your ad account. And I'm not going to go through all the details on that, but you damn well need to figure out how to track sales coming in, regardless of the business type you have, so that your campaign can eventually optimize for sales and profit, not leads, not clicks, not any of the other stuff. Which, by the way, you would also track leads, and you would track people who add something to the cart and then don't buy, because that also helps your results a lot. And I just made a video about that as well, how the algorithm that Google has does better and gets you more results when you track the whole funnel, not just the sale. Bare minimum needs to be every single sale that comes through, you track it. I don't care if you're a lawyer, you can do sales tracking with your account using offline conversion tracking. If you're a brick and mortar business, you can set up a tripwire in your business that will track in-store purchases that originally came from somebody finding your Google ad. And the algorithm can use that data to get you more and more and more and more results. I can make an account grow just by making the tracking upgraded and then letting the tracking do the work. Literally, even though that's not what I just sit around and do, but you literally could do only that, and you could grow 10, 20, 30% a year doing nothing else. And that is on a mature account, or doubled within the first a year. So with that, and then also another pro tip I wanted to mention here was the better the segmentation of your campaigns, the lower the required bids are going to have to be to get your clicks going, and the further you can scale. So going back to what I was talking about here, if you don't want to have to pay $100 a click to get your ads going, or for the least amount of time possible, you absolutely want to segment more. In marketing and advertising, I don't care if it's Google, direct mail, email marketing, whatever you're doing, the more you segment your targeting so your message can be a tighter match to the audience that you're targeting, the higher your click-through rate's going to be on your message and ad, and that always means more profit, because you're getting more out of the medium that you're advertising through. So if you want to actually get your cost per click down sooner while still getting the clicks that you want, the answer to that is simply you take who you're targeting and you sub-segment it. Best way to do this, if you're doing search ads here, is just to do different ads for each keyword, and you target hundreds of keywords, not 10 or 20 like everybody else tries to do when they start out. Or if you're doing display ads, it means targeting a certain website and saying, this is an offer for zero hedge, readers. And you can do that type of thing. We've done that type of thing before. And that will skyrocket your click-through rates on that particular website. And then of course with that, you do custom landing pages to go along with it, because people, when they see something on an ad, they don't want to see your homepage or something totally irrelevant on the landing page that you take them to, or a website that you take them to, because then they're thinking like, well, I don't even really know if this ad is what they offer it actually. They're just baiting and switching me here, or maybe potentially they're doing that. So you segment, and then you could even get into further levels of segmentation. If you're talking about regular search ads, you can target male versus female like we have in the past. So, we've had situations where we've sold gift products, and we would say if they search for engagement rings, it could be engagement rings for her or him based upon whether it's a male or female that's making that search. For that matter, and then you obviously can drive them to the most relevant page on the website and that kind of thing. So the segmentation is the key to get lower cost per click sooner in the process, basically bottom line. Of course, it's an ongoing battle with Google Ads to get your cost per click lower, get your ROI up, all of that. Even if you just hook up tracking like I mentioned before and let the tracking and the smart bidding do the work, you still got to maintain the tracking, you got to test it. It's a lot of work to get results with Google Ads, which is why most people starting out work with scam agencies that are charging a few $100 a month, and it sounds like nice at the surface, but they don't really do almost anything for you because they can't afford to, and then the campaign fails and they don't realize how difficult it actually is. Eventually our clients come to our firm and they end up spending 10 times that, but they end up getting 50 times the results because there's a certain minimum amount of work that needs to be done on your account if you expect your results to ever grow. And they will if you go through the proper actions and actually not just doing 10% of the necessary work and calling it good. If you want somebody that knows what they're doing to do that for you, reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. I'll be happy to give you a proposal that says how much we can get for you with the strategies involved and what the guarantee would be tied to it. And of course, if you don't make more, we don't make anything. And then furthermore, I've got a fantastic set of templates that we have for sale. So if you're in a niche market, whether e-commerce, non-e-commerce, that we've already been in before, instead of doing all this work for yourself to figure out what works in your market, buy from us the ad template, the landing page template that you can then copy and paste into your ad account. And then you get the same results we did with none of the time, money, and effort it took for us to figure out how to get those results over years in your market. As long as you're in a different city or country that our client's been in, it's all fair game for you to use it as well, of which we've been in over 100 different niche markets and can tell you the results we got in the market you're interested in or a different business that you may want to get into, which the easiest way to start a business is to start with the templates we have because you already know that marketing will work for that market. Then you just got to figure out how to deliver. So it's like having a business in a box, frankly. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And I also do coaching and consulting now. If you have an agency and you need help running your agency, I'm great for that. If you're just a regular business that wants to know how to get unstuck with your revenue, I'm also great for that, as I'm able to dig completely into every piece of your business to find out why your ads aren't working, whether it's your pricing strategy, your landing page strategy, whatever it is. And I can figure that out for you, no problem. With all that said, okay, this process that I talked about here, starting out, the level of competition that you have in your market will dictate how high your bids are going to have to go at the beginning. And whether or not, like I touched on before, whether your bids are going to have to go beyond what the Google Keyword Planner says your bids are going to have to be. If you are in a market like we sold a custom wakeboarding product that is like a new type product it's not totally new that nobody's searching for it, but at the same time, there's really only a couple competitors out there. We launched our campaigns. What Google says the cost per click was on the high end, we didn't even have to pay that. We were paying almost what, basically low to mid, between the low, if $4 was the high and then $1 was a low, we're between $1 and $2 per keyword. That almost never happens. Usually you have to pay the high end range just to get your keyword shown on the first page. So there was that. And then on the flip side of that, we had a kitchen remodeling company recently where, like I mentioned before, we had to pay 3 to 4 times per click what the high end of the range on Google Keyword Planner was saying we had to pay. And we had to keep that cost per click like that 3 or 4 times higher than what the highest amount they possibly say you have to go for 30 days after we set the bids that high. And we were, of course, starting to get clicks then before we could start lowering it at all. The competition of your market is going to dictate whether the Google Keyword Planner is going to tell you what you actually need to bid, or if it's going to be higher, or whether you might actually be able to pay the low end of the range. Usually never is going to be below the low end of the range, at least starting out. But that gives you a general range or idea, if you will, what can happen in terms of starting bids, where those could be at, and your different strategies or options for having your starting bids. For at the keyword level, how to do that, how to effectively do that whilst making sure you'll still show, but don't overpay, so that you can spend your starting budget that you can afford to quote unquote lose up front to get to a certain profitability on that starting spend. If you want somebody to walk into your business as a internal employee that really knows what they're doing to do this, I'm looking to do that for you. And the way that I'm talking about doing it is, let me come in. If you got a fantastic product or service that's top in class in your market, it's unique, it should be the #1 company, but it isn't because it doesn't have the best advertising. Let me come in and invest in your company. I can invest in ad spend to get your ads going. I can invest my time and our team's time to get your ads working. In exchange, we're equity partners in your business. We own a piece of your business, and we get a cut of every sale that you make moving forward, in addition to any sales that you have now. So if you're doing $1 million a year now, we take you to $10 million a year, which is very common in how we set these deals up, how it actually works in reality. We'll take 2-3% of that additional $9 million a year as our, what we get for doing that for you. So if you're stuck where you're at and you want to grow your company, and advertising is the sore spot in your business, we want to partner with you. And we like to do that because we make more money doing that than short-term engagements. Some clients last for 10 years at our agency, I'll be honest. They all don't. Average client engagement's a couple of years. We fix up their ads, they're working great. They think they can have someone internally take it over, which is a mistake, but they do that. And that's where the relationship ends. We're looking to pivot our company long-term into investing in companies because we know exactly what we're doing and we want the full value out of what we're doing, and of which, when we invest in companies and we're locked into the profits long-term, we make the most money. So anyway, with that said, we don't invest in just any company. You got to have a great product or service for us to do it. That's, where it clearly has an advantage over other people in that market. And in that case, if you don't have the ads that you want and your product's still not selling, we'll fix that problem for sure. Reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com if you're interested in that. I also have a brand new Discord that we opened, which is growing super quickly, by the way, already. By the time you see this video, there's probably going to be thousands of members in there. But in that Discord group, I've been answering questions as I do in the comment section on YouTube, but it's you get a private conversation going there. You got a bunch of other guys that watch this channel in there, asking questions, talking amongst each other. If you would like to enter that, find the link of that Discord in the video description. I got a actually fantastic PPC course I put together that's inside that Discord that's totally for free, just hopping in there. And that's just, thank you for, of course, joining the Discord group. But with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. See you. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.